what is actually a cracking Premier League weekend, particularly the Sunday. We want to talk a little bit about Eddie Howe, and this debate has cropped up based on, obviously, there's been serious investment in the team over the last year or so, but however, he has improved a lot of the current players. Adrian, I'll put that point to you. Where are you at the moment with Eddie Howe? Because it's hard to take away the job he's doing, if you even leave aside those new signings with the likes of Almiron and Joe Linton.
He's improving players. He's doing what coaches are paid to do, isn't he? I mean, that is, in essence, the job spec of a coach is to improve players and improve a team. And he's done it very, very smartly and quickly, I think, with not crazy money spent, not too many egos. Obviously, the big signing, Alexander Isak, has barely featured. I think he's only played in 3 games. And in those 3 games, Callum Wilson wasn't fit and available either. So he hasn't even had his 2 best goal scorers in the side at the same time. Whether he chooses to do that or not, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he's improved Almiron. They've got the best defensive record in the Premier League. Just everywhere you look, you can see that Eddie Howe has put his imprint on that team. I mean, he's embarrassed Steve Bruce, really, hasn't he, in terms of what the job he's done. So yeah, all power to him. I think they can leapfrog somebody in this season's top 6 potentially. Depends, of course, on how they cope with injuries. But yeah, they're a threat to the big boys this year.
Yeah, some good points, Adrian, there, Miguel. And in fairness, it's hard to get away from the improvement he has done in current players. But I've seen you get into this debate before on Twitter in terms of the actual money being spent. And I guess no club really can, especially in a relegation battle at the start of January, be able to invest in the squad as much as Eddie Howe and Newcastle were allowed to do last season.
Well, I may as well not hide this, given I've written about it a lot, talked about it in social media. The entire Newcastle project is a disgrace. It should never have been allowed. Yeah, all of it must go into that context. It's allowed the club to spend almost more than any club in the globe in 2022, and that's even obviously with financial fair play considerations, and that is a major improvement for any manager. It's a major asset for any manager. Within that, Eddie Howe is obviously a good coach, and they're reaping the benefits of that. It was inevitably going to have an effect. But ultimately these two things coming together. Basically, the amplified power of a sports washing project and having a good manager there. That and this is the reality of modern football now. Basically, if you want to compete, you either need revenues of 400 to 500 million. Or a state to take over you. Newcastle have had a state take over, and it's almost like the debate about Howe itself is almost a little bit moot. I mean, obviously, I've been there as well. It's at the press conferences, or particularly the one at Chelsea last year, when he's been challenged about taking the job because essentially he becomes a front man for the project. And that's all. Those questions are always going to go side by side with this. But I suppose he's having the opportunity to show he is a good manager.
Yeah, Mark. I suppose I think people are generally surprised at how quickly Newcastle have kicked on this season. Particularly, obviously, like I know they sailed clear relegation, but they were in a relegation battle in January, February, March. Are you surprised at how quickly they've managed to get into that top 6? And for you, is it sustainable that they can potentially challenge for Europa League or Champions League places come the end of the season?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised at the start of the season when the betting markets made Newcastle the favourite without the big 6 market, saying they would be the best challengers of the old guard, really. And they absolutely have been. They've been excellent. And I take both of what Adrian and Miguel says and agree with all of it, really. The way in which he's improved. You look at the team who played last week, wasn't just Almiron, it was Joe Linton, Longstaff, Willock, Cher, players who were performing under Steve Bruce, but they've kind of gone to another level and another level beyond that under Eddie Howe. They're 4th in expected points, they're 3rd in expected goals process. They've got the league's best defence. They've lost just once. No team's lost fewer games so far in the Premier League, and they've already met 4 of the big 6 so far. So the schedule's not been overly kind either. So a little bit of coaching, a little bit of confidence, and they're absolutely thriving. And obviously, the not playing in Europe has been a big helper as well, because they're able to rest and prepare properly for Premier League matches right now. World Cup will obviously help things, so we'll see how they they returned to form after the World Cup. But at the moment, they absolutely are contenders and challengers. I didn't expect them to be so, but I've been impressed with the signings that they've made and the way in which they've gone about their business. They've, I kind of assume they'd probably take the Man City route of going out and trying to find the next Robinho when the takeover went through, but they haven't. They've actually kind of done their due diligence and signed players clearly on the up and with potential to improve the team right now. So, yeah, there's been a bit of everything really. But I think as a footballing project, I've been very